A court of appeals issues a very narrow ruling in the Prop 8 case out in California. I'm Matt Barber, Vice President of Liberty Counsel Action, and joining me in studio again is Deryl Edwards, President of Liberty Counsel Action. In the case of Perry v. Schwarzenegger, the court issued a narrow 2-1 ruling a few weeks ago, finding that Prop 8 cannot limit the name, quote, marriage to opposite-sex couples. The court did reach the broader question of reach the broader question of whether there is a federal constitutional right to same-sex marriage. The ruling is very narrow and limited only to California, and in this respect, the ruling has to be a disappointment and quite a blow to same-sex marriage advocates. Furthermore, Deryl, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, this was a 2-judge panel that found that Prop 8 violated a rational basis test of the 14th Amendment, because all it did, according to their opinion, is limit the word marriage from being used by same-sex couples. They are saying that violated the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. It was a 2-1 decision. The Ninth Circuit, of course, is often called the Ninth Circus for a reason. It's the most liberal, most overturned court in the land, and the judge that wrote the opinion in this is the most overturned federal judge, appeals court judge in the land. It will probably go now to the full Ninth Circuit and be challenged to the full Ninth Circuit, where I think there's still a good chance that they will throw it out and say, there's nothing unconstitutional about this. Of course, Judge Vaughn, the lower court judge and out and proud homosexual himself, clearly an activist judge, that his last act as a federal judge was to push his radical pro-homosexual agenda as a homosexual man himself. The issue of whether or not he should have recused himself also came up because of his clear conflict of interest, and the 3-judge panel ruled that he did not need to recuse himself. So out in California, this was a kind of a hiccup in the road. We knew it was going to occur. The battle wages on.
Well, as we talked about before the program, we need to remind people the core of this, the basic of this, that this is based on a popular vote of the people on an amendment that passed according to process the way it should be, the way it was designed. I mean, this is California, but similar to the way the federal Constitution was designed to be amended. And you follow this process. If you amend the Constitution, you then can't have someone else 2-1, two judges go back and say, well, that was wrong. You didn't do it right. Well, we might as well give up having any power to the people and just appoint them rulers for life. Oh,
absolutely. I mean, you read the Federalist Papers, you read the writings of our founding fathers. They literally would roll over in their graves to see these black-robed autocrats abusing the Constitution in this way. How we have gotten to the point now where somehow judges, a very small, unelected group of individuals, has the final say. This is a judiciocracy. If that's we don't even need the other two branches of government. If judges make all final determinations about everything, and clearly based on their opinions, that's why they call it an opinion. We're in trouble. Well, as we were talking about off the air, people need to remember how this all started. Overwhelmingly, Proposition 8 years ago, rather Proposition 22 passed, a law that limited and secured the age-old definition of marriage as between a man and a woman, because that definition was under attack by outside homosexual activist sources. That passed. The California Supreme Court ruled inexplicably that this was somehow unconstitutional. Well, so we, the people, got together and said, well, we're going to change unconstitutional via the California Constitution. Well, we're going to amend. We're going to make it constitutional. We're going to amend the California Constitution. Right. They did that. Proposition 8 passed with a comfortable margin. I think it was 52 to 54% in favor, 40-something percent with in an election year when President Obama was elected, with 70% of the African-American vote going in favor of Proposition 8. So what happens? It's challenged to the federal through the federal court system. A homosexual activist judge rules again that it violates the federal Constitution. Now it's at the Ninth Circuit, the most liberal court in the land. Again, it is narrowly looking at just the issue of marriage, the word marriage in California, because through their civil unions bill. They have all the rights, privileges, responsibilities of marriage anyway through so-called civil unions. So this is all about arguing over the word marriage in California and in California only.
So they ruled that amending the Constitution by a constitutional process may be unconstitutional. Should we not like the issue that you ruled on?
If we don't like the way that you amended the Constitution,
right? We have final veto authority, no matter what else was put in place.
Yeah, this is the stuff that has people like you and I uttering the phrase judicial activism. That's exactly what this is. I think it's bordering in large part on judicial tyranny.
Yeah, I believe so.
It's not just activism. It's tyranny when they find an end that they hope to achieve because of some personal ideology, and they twist and contort and bend this living, breathing Constitution, if you ask them, to work in such a way, making it malleable to reach that end. This flies in the face of everything that our founding fathers stood for and that everything our constitutional republic stands for.
You know, it's rather ironic that they call it living and breathing when it seems like they really want to choke the life out of it.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. And as we've talked about before, this again should remind every American of these competing interpretations of constitutional law, these competing views of the United States Constitution. You have people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an actual sitting United States justice on the United States Supreme Court, going over to Egypt and telling their media that if they're going to develop a constitution, well, they should look to South Africa or Canada. Don't make it like ours because it's too restricting of the federal government. I mean, that borders on treasonous. I mean, to say that, and this woman is charged with interpreting the Constitution and upholding the laws of the land through the prism of the original vision of our founding fathers as represented in the United States Constitution. The fact that she has admitted loathing for the very document that she's supposed to be interpret,
that she swore to uphold,
should make every American recoil in disgust.
Yeah, and she's not alone. I believe President Obama had complained there were parts of the Constitution that he disagreed with, should not have been done. They were not done correctly. Yeah. And so you have this liberal leftist mindset that will look to anywhere, it seems like, besides our own Constitution. They reach to South Africa. They reach to other places. They want constitutions that were developed at elite universities behind, in the ivory towers of somewhere, not by people who had been under tyranny themselves and developed it from a point of view that we have to throw this off and grant freedom that we see comes from God to the people.
Well, you see those who seek to have the same power and control that the founders suffered under in Great Britain. They want that power. They want to be able to exercise that tyranny, throwing fits and complaining that this brilliant document was put in place to restrict their control and their power.
It would have been like if Madison had said, well, let's let King George write our Constitution. You know, it's about that ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. And so it should not surprise us, though, that this culture war and these constitutional issues and battles have heated up to the degree that they have, and particularly over such issues as marriage. I mean, here we are actually having a conversation about the idea that the United States Constitution created at a time when the idea of when homosexual sodomy was considered a sin punishable by death. Of course, we would never advocate anything like that, but that was the reality of the times. For them to now say that our founding fathers would have somehow believed that Patrick Henry had a constitutional right to marry Henry Patrick, it's utterly absurd through the context of the times.
But they do like to twist and rewrite history, and as you go back to that living, breathing Constitution, they use that phrase to make it whatever they want it to be, not what it actually is.
Well, folks, at Liberty Counsel, we're going to defend and protect and do everything we can to secure the United States Constitution, not the Canadian Constitution. We're not looking to the South African Constitution. Our founding fathers had a vision, I believe a vision that was inspired by the sovereign creator of the universe, and we aim to protect that original vision. Go to lc.org to learn how you can sign up and become part of Liberty Counsel's team, or give us a call at 1-800-671-1776. Join us, stand with us as we stand for freedom.